Yeah, it's what we've been doing straight along. You just
Love
join the club?
I'm new here.
Hello. I'd like to introduce you to Mark Nudelberg up at the top right there.
This is my first day.
Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Welcome to Friday. I'm excited. Lots of good stuff happening in the daily huddle world. We're going to continue Mark's conversation on fear. We got some fun follow-up stuff that he didn't get to. I added some flavor to it. We got great music. We got great motivation, inspiration, so much stuff. Tell me what's happening in your world, Mark Nudelberg.
I want to give a shout out to the Something New crew, and in particular Greg Briscoe for his post yesterday. Just anytime we get feedback on what we're doing in the morning, it's always great. But they put out a post yesterday that was awesome, and it created a bunch of conversation with a bunch of people. So very appreciative of everybody in the audience, and then especially when we get feedback and get coached a little bit.
Yeah, you know what, Mark? I think what's interesting is that we talk about social media, and most people think of posting and putting their own stuff out there. When, the more you do and the more people get to know who you are, the more they talk about you. And so same way, Colin posted something that he got into my Audible, and, pretty credible. Ed Dykes in the huddle on LinkedIn. Attaboy, man. So we can see him, and we know he's here. Welcome. That is the jeweler of the stars, man. I'm excited that he is here this morning. Greg Goldstein bringing the fire on a Friday morning. So to continue my point, when people start talking about you and your name shows up in other places, pretty good.
Yeah, it's awesome. And that's the real benefit of the social network. And when you're putting out content or bringing people together with content, you're creating a community around people. And we talk about it in marketing all the time. You got to listen to your audience, listen to your clients, listen to your customers and what they're saying. So appreciate you guys.
I am listening. And my friend Beth Halleck, who just joined the huddle this morning from North Carolina, I went to the mailbox, which I don't do often, and I was happy to receive a beautiful handwritten note that she is thankful for me. And she posted something that said she considers me a friend, and the feeling is absolutely mutual. I am thrilled that you were in my life. I'm thrilled that she taught me a great lesson when I showed up to do my speech last year. I thought it was going to be cold and in South Carolina, so I wore like a very plain jacket. And she was like, the first thing, she was like, where are you? So anyway, thank you. You made my day opening up great mail. So before we get into music this morning, I wanted to put a bow around the work that we did in October for breast cancer. We just showed you that we made, $10,000 happened. I want to show you how it happened. And I welcome back Kim Swears and her son, Chase, to the show. Good morning, boat boss and son.
Good morning. Good morning, guys. Good morning, Huddle. Hope everyone has their coffee going, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Cheers to everybody. So do me a favor, Kim, I know you and I were committed to this cause right from the get. Ed Dykes was one of the first people in, but Chase has been committed to this ever since you were diagnosed. And he is put in a big chunk of change in this. So Chase, why don't you introduce yourself, tell the Daily Huddle who you are, what you're passionate about, and how you helped raise this $10,000.
My name is Chase Swears, and
which, by the way, sorry to interrupt, that is a movie star name, I will tell you. And it's I'm going to see your movies right away. So
listen, there's no school today, so he really loves to wake up at 8 o'clock and get on the huddle. And so I'll tell a little bit, because he doesn't really remember how it happened, but basically I was cooking dinner one night and he came in and he started crying, and I was keeping what I had a secret. I didn't want him to know I had cancer, and he came in and he just started crying. He broke down and he cried for a full hour in my arms, and he said, I don't want to die. And that would have hit home to me that I needed to be more transparent with my family about cancer. And so I didn't have any help at the time. I didn't have a nanny at the time, and Randy was out of town, and there was a day that I had one of my treatments. And Chase didn't know what to do. I slept all day. The poor kid had no food, and he played video games all day. And that's when he said, what do people do that are fighting cancer that don't have help? And that's when you started. Why don't you tell them what you did?
So I started C3 for Change. And originally what we were doing is we had like these boxes that we would put around businesses, usually like around my parents' business, and you could put like coins inside and money and stuff, and then we would take that and then we would do like a fundraiser or something like that.
So Kim, share with us what the donation is to this cause, because what you put in, we had promised whatever got there, we would match to make it $10,000. So it's a pretty significant number. Why don't you guys share what that number is?
Well, c3forchange.org is where you find more information. C and then 3 in the number for change.org. That's Chase's foundation. He's raised over $100,000 since over the last 6 years. So why don't you tell them what you did?
So C3 for Change is proud to donate $1,350.
Bam!
Yeah.
So I tell you this, and I tell you this with all candor, I'm excited about the future, that there's young people like you that are committed to doing stuff, not just talking about it or complaining. So congratulations, great effort. You know how I feel about your parents, and anything you want from the Nudelberg Daily Huddle, you can count on. So thank you for your donation. We've matched it, and so $10,000 is in that fund. So great work.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys. Be well. Have a great Friday.
Bye.
Bye.
All right. So what a great way to feel good Friday, to start with that. Now let's get into some music. Shea Money, give it to me.
Thanks. Remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins. Come! One time! In the day we sweat out on the streets of a runaway American dream. At night we ride for matches of glory, suicide machine. Run from cages on highway lines, one wheel feel rejected, stepping out over the line. Whoa! Maybe this town rips the bones from your back to death trap, to suicide rap. We gotta get out while we're young, 'cause tramps like us, baby, we were born to run.
There you have it this morning, a little boss to get us going. Certainly back in the rock and roll thing, but the first sentence he said in that, nobody wins unless everybody wins. And that really, really, really took me to the house. There's the Contractor Sales Academy. I had the opportunity to speak to them yesterday, 70 some odd, working class people, man, who are out there making shit happen. And I am proud to have worked with them, and they ate it up and I ate up working with them. So it's pretty awesome. So one of the reasons why I wanted to play the boss this morning, and a shout out to my old college roommate, Gary Press. Gary's done my podcast in the past. He's a dear friend. He runs South Florida Business and Wealth. He introduced me to the boss like when I was 18, in college. He was jamming and running away with it. But today is National Saxophone Day. So what does that mean? There was actually a guy named Adolphe Sax who on November 6th, it was the birth of the woodwind instrument. And then on June 28th, my birthday, he received a 15-year patent for the instrument. So mostly the saxophone is associated with jazz, which I love jazz music. But when it gets into rock and roll, it really, really kicks. So Shay, show me some of the, show me some saxophone artists.
Just the sax, man. Just the sax. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we'll be counting down our picks for the top 10 saxophone solos in pop and rock. While the saxophone is most commonly used in classical and jazz music, many pop and rock musicians have adapted the instrument into their sound. For this list, we're looking at saxophone solos as well as the riffs that have become iconic in the pop and rock genres. So sit back and enjoy the soothing sound of this classic woodwind instrument.
So all great there. You had the Doors, you had Huey Lewis, but there is only one guy that you talk about when you talk about the sax. Give me some Clarence.
Not a lot of rock bands have a saxophone, and nobody else had Clarence Clemens. Yes, the name of the outfit is Bruce Springsteen and the E Street Band, but that sound was always so different. In large part because of that shiny brass secret weapon and the big black man playing it. And once upon a time, even that was a novelty. It was in the immediate wake of the civil rights era, after all. Right after Bruce Springsteen burst onto the scene, we learned he was part of a package deal. Bruce wrote and sang the songs, but those solos, those hooks, that soul, that was all Clarence. Everything changed when the big man joined the band.
So clearly, if that doesn't get you jumping, you need to go to the doctor and check out the ticker. One of the questions that was asked of me yesterday in the session that I did was, what do you do when you're down? Like you're flying along and then all of a sudden just you don't feel good, you have some bad news or whatever. What do? You put on Clarence. That's the point of listen to the music. You kick your ass in gear by all of the music. And it was so much fun doing the research because there's so many great saxophonists. Kenny G is probably the one that jumps out. Yeah. Who jumps out for you, my man? Anybody?
So it's not even really the individual sax player, but the great bands or artists who incorporated the sax into their music, like Prince, like Rick James, like that level of music that was different than everybody else's stuff because they brought in blues, they brought in jazz, and made it something that was really hot.
One of my favorites, Bob Seger.
Who's this guy? Who's this guy? How is he interrupting, man?
Bob Seger and the Silver Bullet Band.
Bob Seger did it as well. As a matter of fact, Bob Seger did the song that they played in Risky Business when he's dancing, or when Tom Cruise is dancing around, rock and roll, good time rock and roll. But my favorite band, and Mark knows my favorite band. Who is my favorite band?
The Doobies.
The Doobies. The Doobies kick ass with the saxophone, and those were some really fun times. So some really cool stuff.
Great sax player. Nice job,
without a doubt. So for those, welcome Tracy Roloff, who's with us this morning. Tracy, is totally into music. I had the new director of the South Florida Orchestra here. So good stuff. Good stuff. So there's music for you. Remember, start your day in the middle of the day before you do anything important. Give yourself a little jolt of music. Do the saxophone. So, Mark, you did an amazing job yesterday bringing up a topic that really hit everybody. Our friend Louis Oliver sent us a great note. Do you have his note handy? He was like, that was fucking awesome.
Fucking fabulous is what he said.
So, and it really was, because I think it stirred a lot of dialogue. I talked about it all day long. So I said I would continue it with Fearless Friday. And there was a story I was waiting to share that is totally about Fearless. Shay showed me Bridger Walker. So for those of you who don't know who Bridger Walker is, he saved his younger sister from a vicious dog attack. He received 90 stitches throughout his body, but saved his 3-year-old sister from certain death. If someone was going to die, it must be me. I'm the older brother. So the World Boxing Council recognized him as a world heavyweight champion for the day. The dude was unbelievable. They have interviewed him. He's had people from all over the world reach out to him. That's pretty fearless, Mark, don't you think?
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And I think, when you talk about what the story talks about him as a kid, that he's a learner and he's constantly curious and getting into other things. Had a couple conversations yesterday about children with some of the people that I'm working with. And it's amazing how they will rise to the level of your expectation when you treat them older than they are. I know that that's the way I was kind of brought through, was you just learn to adapt to the environment that you're put in. And if you don't put limitations on people and just allow them to see what's possible, it's incredible what happens.
It's interesting you say that, because yesterday I had my weekly call with Michael Metapor, and he started out, and he and I have been friends a really long time. He's in the Huddle now on a regular basis, and hopefully people are reaching out to him. But he said to me, he goes, after having a conversation with you, he said, "Get the fuck out of his way, will you, man?" I was like, "What, are you kidding me, man?" It's pretty amazing. So on this idea of fear and fearless, before we get into the meat and potatoes of what you had yesterday, the 14 ways to conquer fear, I wanted to do a Friday funny and show you and talk about 32 of the funniest phobias and fears, just to make you feel better. Mark, you have the list in front of you. On this list is a few. Let's just talk about the top 5, if you will.
Sure. The syngenous phobia, which is fear of relatives, which I think a lot of people have within their own families, especially now that we're in November. And I think most people are planning on getting around Thanksgiving. People are already sweating for the next 3 weeks.
That's real fear, dude. That is real fear. How about this one? Pogonophobia, which is fear of beards. Now, can you understand somebody who's afraid of a beard? So
it's crazy.
Crazy.
Lipophobia, which is the fear of becoming fat, which I think the majority of people have. Hopefully that doesn't lead to something that, causes a real problem in your life.
Now, we obviously know about FOMO, fear of missing out, but this one is nomophobia, which is fear of losing mobile phone service. So are these people incapable of flying? I mean, is that what happens to them? Do they go?
And the fear of losing your phone is a real thing. Like when you see people that actually panic, you get that moment where you're like, oh shit, where is it? You see that real sense of fear, like you're falling or like a loud noise, which is an innate fear. So funny.
So I love that. And then finally, you want to give us the last one?
Sure. Geliophobia, which is the fear of laughter. And by the way, this list is absolutely testing my reading capabilities. But geliophobia, which is the fear of laughter, which has to be the worst fear of all.
I mean, some of this stuff is the fear of peanut butter sticking to the roof of your mouth, fear of being watched by a duck, fear of ferns, which I was tempted to put up between two ferns with Zach Galifianakis. So
shout out to David and Paul Rushton putting some serious one out there. The camelopardophilophobia is the fear of giraffes. So killing me with these words.
So I thought that was kind of a fun way to talk about fear. Now let's get into the serious stuff, Mark, and I'm going to let you steer here because this was your content. You found it, and it was worthy of a second day of the Huddle. So you started with 14 ways to conquer fear. This is real meat and potato stuff, and we try and deliver value here every day so that you can go out and put things into action. This is really awesome.
The first one is and we talked about it quickly yesterday, but it's the foundation of it all, is understand and embrace it. And I think when most people say understand and embrace it, they just think sit with it and then go attack it. But that's really not the goal. The goal is to understand, what is the fear telling me? Is the fear trying to keep me safe? Or is the fear of me getting out of my comfort zone? There's two very different things, because if you're standing over a cliff without any rope, that's entirely different. Take a step back, right? Don't do that thing. But if the fear is coming from the uncomfortability of being out of your comfort zone, that's different. And you have to learn to say, okay, this is a good fear. I know that I need to continue to push through this and move on. So understanding and embracing it is the first. And then the next thing that it says is don't just do something, stand there, the opposite of what most people say, right? Just go,
Correct.
just go right through it. No.
The building's on fire. I'm running in. Whoa,
Run.
whoa.
No. Yeah.
Whoa.
Assess what's going on and allow yourself to take in all of the information to really make the best decision and make an educated decision.
So this will lead to a topic that I'll talk about next week. We as humans have the gift of breath, but very rarely do we understand the power of taking a breath and over and holding it and expanding it and, working out. I had a massage this week. The masseuse said, listen, your part in this massage is you're going to need to breathe and do and tell me. And, so that reminds me of the power of breath, that just sometimes you just got to stand back and go, all right, what the hell? So number 3, which I really, really like, is name the fear. When you name something, you give it a personality, you give it a face, you give it an image, and so sometimes merely stating what the fear is gives you the strength to do that. And most people won't do that. I think most people just sort of think of it as the blob, name it. And that goes to extreme ownership. Own it. I'm scared.
They don't really identify it. Yeah.
What do I need to do with this? And, so no matter what level of life that you're at, sometime, somewhere, you're going to have fear to deal with. So name it.
The fourth thing is think long-term, which is really hard to do because when you have that fear, what you want to do is get rid of it as fast as you can, which will cause you to make poor decisions in the short term to just fix that one thing. And I know as being an entrepreneur, if you were to say, well, how am I going to make payroll this month? You might make some bad decisions in the short term to just cover the nut for this 30 days, which are going to cause you harm over the next 60 or 90. Think long term. What am I going to do that's going to help me not only get rid of this fear or deal with this fear, but solve the problem that's causing it? So think long term about it.
Love that. I'm going to skip to number 8 because visualize success is what it says. And, this is such an important part of every strategy, which dates back to, in the day when I was an up and coming sales leader, I had everybody have a vision board. I was like, listen, man, you're going to take a lot of grief. Look at the vision board and you're going to go, wow, and it's not the material thing, but it's focused on visualizing success. What does success look like? Give it a name, own it, boom, give it a picture, cars, boats. So if you visualize being successful and even visualize being successful about the fear, in some of the research I saw that for Will Smith's 50th birthday, he wanted him and his wife to jump out of a plane. She was scared shitless. He just said, visualize landing, own the landing, don't own the jump, So.
Yep. And the educate yourself, which is another one, I think, because a lot of the fear comes from what you don't know. You're worried about what's going to happen or what can happen, or you're not sure of the outcomes or how to do the thing that you're scared about. So going out and educating yourself, which again, I go back to this over and over and over. When I was a kid, the only way to educate myself was to go into a book and find it. I had to go into the encyclopedia, find where it was, read about it. Now you literally, all you have to do is Google. And not only is there a Wikipedia encyclopedia answer for you, but there's 30,000 articles written from all over the world about this and that. So just go educate yourself, start diving into the content about it to figure it out.
So the other part of that one for me is get help. It's pretty easy. What is that one? What do pedophiles have to do with it? What is he doing in our
Peladophobia. Peladophobia is the word, and that's fear of bald people.
Right. I mean, that probably are. Well. I mean, listen, I kids cry around me all the time. What is that? What is that? So for me, the other part of that educate yourself is to get help. If you're really scared of something, intimidation. We're about to move into the digital space pretty heavily. was not my skill set. I was okay saying to you, grab this and run with it. This is your skill set. I need help to understand it and to move into that territory. So I think that one is so great.
Shout out to a huddler who Scott Graham's wife just updated us that there was a terrible car accident in front of their house, and he ran outside to go help with everything that's going on there. So shout out to Scott for helping. And we just talked about this.
Fearless. Talk about that, man. He didn't even think twice. He's out, man. Good for him. Kudos.
So the next thing is after you educate yourself, you ask for help, you get a coach, whatever the thing is that you need for the support, you got to practice, right? Prepare yourself, put together an outline, put together a structure for yourself to go over, practice it, role play it. I know whether it's a presentation or just a speech or some that I'm sit down with somebody and have a conversation, I want to be prepared for it. How much practice and preparation are you putting into whatever that fear is so that you can overcome it?
So I love all of that stuff. I'm going to give you a toss up here and tell you where you want to go, because I think we've sort of nailed that topic in 2 days.
Yeah, for sure.
We could go to Wall and Hall, or we can go into Einstein, because the way to overcome fear is to think,
Let's go to Einstein.
Think.
These quotes are really good. These quotes
Can we go to
really
Einstein for 200? So this is something I was waiting to fit into the huddle, and I'm so excited because it's something I look at all the time. So these are 7 quotes by Albert Einstein that will change the way you think, and really reorienting your fear. If you want to reorient fear, you got to think about it. All of those ways to conquer it had think in it. So rock and roll with number 1, if you would.
You don't have to know everything. You just have to know where to find it. And so that goes right back to what we were just talking about with educate yourself and get the information. It's never been easier to find information. You just have to do the work to go find it.
So I really love that, because, I when I would go on stage, I'd get up and the first thing I would say, does anybody in the audience own a library? And they would all look at me like I was out of my mind. I was like, and nobody would say yes. And I go, how about if I told you all own a library? And they were like, okay, what's the catch? I go, all you got to do is open up your computer or go to your phone, click. You can find anything on any subject in 2 clicks. So the ability to find information is such a gift of our lifetime. We're overwhelmed with it. So people are overwhelmed. They shut it out. They don't take anything in. If you discipline yourself to digest information all the time, and that's why I was so thrilled that Einstein said that, because, people ask me, like, how much time, they asked yesterday, how much time do I spend learning? And the question was really pointed that, I'm 60 years old. Am I this or am I this? Am I going up or am I going down? And I said, every single day, just doing the huddle is a learning thing for me, putting together the content. It's a labor of love. I love it. I'm consuming information at a radical pace, which makes me better. And so I love that one. Number 2 is, it's not that I'm so smart. This is Einstein talking, but I stay with questions much longer. And God, I probably should have worn my patience shirt. Nobody has any patience. I mean, seriously, you think about anything, nobody has any patience at all. They want it now. They want it yesterday. They want it before you even thought of it, so it's, which actually there's the joke I sent you yesterday. Is that appropriate for this or no?
No. Okay. But the sense of urgency, it's such a fine balance, because you do have to act with a sense of urgency, but have patience in the result, and that's such a hard thing to really grasp. You can't wait for shit to happen to you. You have to proactively go after what you want, and you have to do things with a sense of urgency. When we talked about, on Eric Spoelstra earlier this week, he did everything with a sense of urgency within the organization. That's how he got to where he is. Yet he had patience to wait 7 years in a closet as a videographer to eventually get the role that he wanted within the organization. So that's such a balancing act that requires so much self-awareness and the ability to really live in the moment.
And saying no, saying I don't know is so powerful. We're at 30 minutes. I'm going to jump right into one more final one for the weekend. And I love this one. Be so present that you forget about the past and the future. Live right here, right now, today. Go out, kick some ass, look your fears in the face, and make it happen, and make sure that you are on the ball. Have a great weekend. Congratulations to Chase and all of us in this huddle for raising $10,000. What a great week. Next week is even better. See you guys.
See you.
Thanks. Remember, in the end, nobody wins unless everybody wins. Come! What time?